there should be savings in energy. So it'll hopefully be a wash. And I don't know, the only other thing besides that, I mean, Catherine maybe has some update on Danny Wheeler is going to be cleaning the monument in front of Town Hall on, I think, August 1st.
Correct, August 1st, early in the morning. And so we'll have a little thing about it in September, because it'll be, he won't have done it till August 1st, but
right,
9 o'clock in the morning.
but
And
whoever wants to come, people could watch.
I think so. If he knows that we'll try and video him, and he's fine with that. His grandsons are going to be the ones or one of his grandson is going to go up in the lift.
Cool. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
I don't know, Joel, unless you have something else to add. I missed the last meeting because I had COVID. So.
Well, that was the high point. There's more on the agenda for tomorrow, but that's tomorrow.
Okay. So if that's all we need to hear from the town board, then we will move on to the development reviews. The first one is the 129 Hornbrook Road. And the anticipated actions are public hearings, seeker, and considering final and primary, preliminary, and final approval. And David, is this something you feel like you need to go over and give us any updated information on?
Okay, sorry. I'm like, I don't. You meant the other David.
No, I'm sorry.
Like, I don't know.
We have two action. This is on the agenda twice. You may have noticed under two application names. The first one is because this parcel went through a substantial process several years ago of subdividing, moving a lot line, doing a land swap with the town, and being rezoned. And during all of that, the subdivision plat did not get filed. So what we have in the package, I will share briefly. This is the plat. So this already went through a review with the planning board. It went through 239 review with the county. It went through seeker and was approved. But then the plat was not filed within the year that the town subdivision law gives it before it needs to be recertified by the planning board. So I think it's worth reopening the public hearing. I actually think we don't need to go back through seeker again, because I found that it was already done on this exact same subdivision. This is the exact same plat. I actually have this signed by the former chair, but we need it signed by the new chair because that signature expired.
Okay.
So I'd suggest that we open the public hearing in case anyone is here to speak on it. But then we could move straight to approval or denial if you don't have a lot of questions or things like that for me on the subdivision.
Okay. And you're showing us what it is. So we can open the public hearing and see if anyone has any questions or comments. And now I can't see anyone. So
Oh, here, I'll stop the share. I only see 2 members of the public who aren't applicants, Ted and Susan. If either of you were hoping to speak on this. No?
I'm just a listener today.
okay. So does anyone have any comments for the public hearing?
No.
I don't see any hands anywhere. Is that correct, David? Because again, I
That's
can't
correct.
see all of them.
Yes.
Okay. So then we can go ahead and close the public hearing, right?
Correct.
And
So I'm going to share a screen of the decision document that I've
Okay.
started filling out.
Do we need to address the seeker at all since it's on the agenda, or we just say it was already approved?
I think the fact that it's already approved is fine.
Okay.
that just can, that could be noted, right?
Yes. Will be noted in the minutes, Alyssa.
Right.
So we have the subdivision action, we have the plat we just looked at. So I guess we're looking for a motion from someone to approve or deny or approve with conditions, the site plan, sorry, not the site plan, the subdivision. We can do preliminary and final if you would like.
I'll make a motion for preliminary and final approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. So then we can do a vote.
Was that, sorry, was that second, Jamie?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any discussion of conditions? Yeah, Scott, I'm gonna mute myself and take that.
I don't have any conditions unless anyone else has any concerns. It seems pretty straightforward.
So does anyone have anything? All right. if
So yeah, I
not-
just got Scott in.
Okay,
I didn't have an eye on the waiting area, so Scott
Yeah,
and
he's
Toby
here.
were sitting there. All right, Scott, to bring you up to speed, we were about to vote on reapproving the subdivision plat for 127 Hornbrook that was approved by a previous planning board but not filed correctly. And we have a motion on the table from Kelly, the second from Jamie, to approve with no conditions. All right. Do you want to go ahead,
Yeah.
Melissa?
You're on
Unless-
mute, Scott.
yeah.
Should I go ahead and roll call?
Let's get Scott's face back.
Where
Okay,
did he go? There we go.
It's summer.
Can you hear us, Scott? There we go.
There we go.
okay.
So we can do a
Cowan.
roll call.
Yes.
Cowan, all right. Davis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maher,
Yes.
Vanucci,
Yes.
Scriver.
Yes,
That motion passed, and David is resolution 11.
Well, thank you. Okay. Let me get that filled in just a second before we move on. Okay,
okay. So are we all set with that?
we are all set with the subdivision.
So now we're gonna go on to 127 to 129 Hornbrook parcel. And the anticipated board actions for this are public hearing and consider preliminary and final approval. And it's a seeker type 2. Commercial seeker type 2. And this is for the Sunbeam Candles proposal. So we should open the public hearing.
I don't see any hands. Does anybody want to speak for the public hearing on 127, 129 Hornbrook Road, Sunbeam Candles application for site plan review.
I saw a hand somewhere.
I
Catherine,
see
but I-
Joel and Catherine.
Mine is, I didn't realize this was, well, site plan review anyway. I was just gonna say, I heard another person from Danby saying how glad they were that there is gonna be a business in Danby, and me too.
Thanks.
Thanks.
My comment is similar. And when I got wind of this, I thought it was a terrific development.
Is that Joel?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Any other comments?
I don't see any hands.
Nope. So we can close the public hearing.
Yes.
And for limited light industrial,
Yeah, David, so for the amendment, did they just add light industrial to the list of permitted?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
The amendment also, if you've been deep in the zoning definitions, edited the definition of industrial establishment, which was something that was banned from aquifer protection overlay zones. That previous definition included light industry, but discluded all heavy industry. So
Mhm.
it banned our light industry definition, which is basically defined to have no impact. And it did not ban asphalt plants, chlorine plants, fracking, any heavy industry. It only banned light industry. So we flipped the wording there so that it banned heavy industry and not light industry. So this is an allowed use by site plan review in this zone.
okay. So if there's no comments, we can do, I can't remember now if I closed the public hearing. Close the
did.
public hearing and then we need to do approval.
That's correct. If you'll remember, the site plan review is basically keeping the parcel the same, except adding a cement pad and solar panels on the back of
Right.
the warehouse.
I just had one question about the pads, under the commercial section. It talks about waste disposal. Is one of the existing pads already designated to that?
I believe so. I'm not sure if it's on a pad, like the waste disposal, that actually they're just renting dumpsters right now. I don't think there's permanent waste disposal there. We don't have a lot of waste and we have like a couple of garbage bags a week. So we don't need like any kind
Oh,
of
so you don't
stuff.
need a dumpster. Okay.
No. I mean, it just
Okay.
maybe just when we're first moving in, but generally we don't have a lot of waste and we recycle almost all of our wax. So yeah, we don't have a lot of waste.
Okay.
So the pad, the purpose of the pad was we're going to be using one of the buildings for supplies and the other one for manufacturing. We just need to get pallets back and forth between the two buildings.
Okay. So we can go ahead and vote on this, do a roll call.
We can.
And
Somebody
there
needs
weren't any
to, someone
conditions,
needs
I
to
don't think.
make a motion.
I'm sorry, David, what?
Somebody needs to make a motion before we can roll call.
Right, okay. Is there someone who wants to make a motion to approve this? Everybody's quiet tonight, too hot.
Yeah.
Make a motion then. I thought I could wait everybody out, but
I'll make a second.
this is a tough crew.
Okay, so it's Scott and Kelly, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It's hot, so I want to get done with this meeting.
That's the
Now-
last one I'm making.
Now we can do a roll call.
Cowan,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
Benucci,
Yes.
Scriber.
Yes,
That passed and that's resolution 12, David.
So now we need to do the decision paper, right?
I think David will put that on the decision paper. Is that right?
You have it
Yes,
ready?
That's what we just walked through. So if you want to put eyes on it, you have resolution 12, site plan review, number 5. Motion from Scott Davis to approve site plan review approval made by David Gould Sunbeam Candles at, let's see, 127 and, oh. (127) and 129 Hornbrook Road. And I'll fill in the votes later, but that is it.
Great. Welcome, Sunbeam Candles. This is a
Great.
positive thing.
Yeah,
Do you ever let people do tours or see what you're doing, or
we're
is
planning
that
on doing
dangerous?
a combination. We have to come up with we're going to come up with some kind of system for that, you know. But it's
Okay.
not. Our current shop is so small. Once we get into this bigger space, we should be able to do something. But our main thing is manufacturing. We sell to stores mostly around the country, and so we sell locally too. But so a lot of our energy is devoted to just like making the candles to sell to the stores.
And are there local stores that carry what you sell?
Yep. We sell to a lot of stores locally. We sell to both Green Stars. We sell to Home Green Home, Handwork, Brighter Days, Cornell Plantations,
Oh, okay.
and Bull's Flower Shop, and I think a couple others. So
So we can all support the little business in Danby.
please do. Yeah, and we also have a website through which we sell to the public. You know, individuals can just buy candles and.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Yep. Sunbeamcandles.com is the website if you want to check it out. We just did a complete rebranding and created a new website last year, not even a year ago. So feeling like it's still fresh.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it a lot.
Mhm.
Congratulations, David.
Thanks for your help, David.
All right. The next one is West King Road. And is Hunter, I don't know, is it Greg or is that the right pronunciation?
Greg.
Greg, okay. So we need to do an application review, public hearing, and consider preliminary and final approval. And I think this one you gave us a seeker on, right, David?
No, because this
No.
is also a type 2 action because it's
Oh,
adding
okay.
a single family home.
So it must be the last one that has a seeker on it. Okay,
That's correct.
okay. So do you want to describe? I mean, this is just
Sure.
a land thing, right? And a
It
second
is,
dwelling.
it's the addition of a dwelling, which is a use allowed by site plan review in this zone. So accompanying the application was some information about annexations that are planned. Annexation is not a planning board discretionary action. It's something that I approve as long as the annexation doesn't create a zoning issue. So that's when somebody moves land from one lot to another lot. So the applicant has worked out deals with 2 neighbors that will result in a change in the shape of the parcel. Those deals obviously are pending. He would want to do that if he wasn't able to get site plan approval for the house that he'd like to build, which is kind of behind the existing old barn on the parcel and adjacent to a hedgerow that separates it from the property to the north. You know, the details in the application include the approximate location of the house. Not much more than that. It's not a terribly complicated request. So, you know, it'd be within the board's purview to say you want more. But it's also within your purview to move forward, allowing a house at that location with that approximate footprint if you are comfortable with that. One of the things that to me, makes us a little more comfortable is that the applicant is purchasing the land from the most affected neighbor. So obviously, they wouldn't give them land for a project they didn't like,
Mhm.
I would assume. And it's pretty well buffered from the road because it's behind the existing barn. But that's kind of what I took away from it, is that it seems fairly innocuous.
And you gave us there's some pictures with it, and it's really just a small piece, right?
It is.
That is
So I can,
into the new park.
David, is that little parcel, is that its own separate lot already? Or is it,
no,
or is 335 going to be subdivided?
I'm going to share my screen for a second to help make it clear. Okay, so this is the existing parcel. You can see my cursor. So this rectangle is the existing parcel.
Right.
And this little square is currently a part of this parcel that's on the corner.
Okay.
And the applicant is proposing to purchase this piece of that from this person. And you may have seen in the, if you were downloading documents from online, there will also be a land swap where a little piece of this will go away and a little piece of this will be added. It doesn't have any impact for our review of the proposed house here because it's already well within required setbacks. But I figured it'd be useful for you all to know the full extent of changes that are proposed there.
So they don't, so since it's just an annexation, they don't have to subdivide. 335 doesn't have to subdivide.
That's correct.
Right. Okay.
So no new lots will be created. Land will just be moved between existing lots.
And
David,
David,
just for my, oh, sorry, go ahead, Joss.
you were saying that the little swap land isn't anything that we even has anything really to do with us. It's just we should know that's happening.
That's correct.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So just for my clarification, so the second dwelling is permitted, is that like as part of M, where it says installation of second dwelling unit?
Yes.
Okay. The unit part was throwing me off. Do we have any idea what the size of the house is? So they're showing the clearances, but they don't, do we know what the scale of this building will be?
Not yet. I was seeking approval before I even get into the design drawing phase, but
Okay.
it'd be on the more modest size. It wouldn't have a huge footprint.
All right, are there other questions for the applicant?
And Kelly, this might be an instance where the board could consider if you want that design to come back to the board like you did on now I'm blanking on which hill road it was.
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember which it was either.
Or if you don't feel like there's anything particularly sensitive, you could approve a footprint up to a certain threshold that maybe the applicant would be comfortable with, like, you know, a footprint of under 1,500 square feet would not need to come back for further site plan review, but a larger footprint might. That's up to you all, because usually we would ask for, you know, a bit more information. But in this instance, again, it is a pretty innocuous due to the placement and the existing contours of the site.
I'm still
I
inclined
have,
to have, I'm sorry, Kelly?
Go ahead, Scott. I'll go after you.
I'm still inclined to just have them come back for site plan review once they have the house more solidified. It shouldn't be, much of a big deal, but I think it's just good practice for us. And that comes from just a sense that, things just have a way to get screwed up. So I would say just come back. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be time consuming,
Sure.
but I think it's still a good idea to just do that.
Yeah, I feel like we've been seeing more and more non-traditional massing of residences. And so I think it would be good just to
Yeah.
see it, but I don't see that there would probably be an issue, but
Okay.
May I ask a question, please? Hello?
Hello.
Hi, could I ask a question, please?
Oh, there's Susan.
Who is this?
My name is Susan Perry. I'm Hunter's neighbor. I'm the one that my husband and I would be selling him that piece of land. Just curious on what you think the anticipated timing might be, because we would like to wrap up that transaction before we leave the country in early September. And I'm also just curious what the rationale is for these kinds of growth and development policies when we have South Hill Cider behind us doing whatever they wish. It's now a campground in addition to a music venue with inadequate parking. So I'm just curious what the rationale is for limiting homeowners' plans for expansion, or being able to develop their property or do what they wish with it when those rules don't seem to apply to other properties directly connected. So maybe first question first, in terms of what you anticipate the timing of this being wrapped up, and if we'll be able to take care of the transaction before September. And then maybe the second question in terms of why homeowners are held to a different standard. Thank you.
This begs the question, did I miss the public hearing, or was there?
No, we haven't gotten to the public hearing yet. So we've been in application review with questions from the board.
We've approved the annexation, the general siting of the house. So I would think that the land sale could go ahead without any concerns. I don't see why it couldn't.
I think it's actually more of a question for the applicant.
Yeah.
The planning board can issue what's called preliminary approval if they were willing of the site plan, and then you could come back with more detail of what your actual building is. And the fact that you have preliminary approval for a house at that location and that approximate scale would give you the assurance that the planning board doesn't have a problem with that, but they could require adjustments to particular details when those are available. Do you understand what that means?
Sure.
They really can't say, they could in an extreme circumstance say no, but generally it's already an allowed use. And it's just a question of exactly how.
Yeah, if I'm granted approval this evening, I can proceed with the transaction immediately.
And then just come back when you have the final details.
Yes, yes.
Those are two separate things. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And David, I'm thinking we can't necessarily address the second question.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Things about South Hill Cidery,
I think generally, agriculture and ag marketing activities aren't allowed use.
But, you
think
know,
that
there
things
is,
have, I can't comment on any future or pending enforcement actions, but one way or another, but I
he
can
has
say,
expanded to camping. I was wondering if that's necessarily allowed, if did they go through the town board when they expanded to camping?
no.
You know, maybe Susan would like to be on the agenda of the either the town board or the planning board to express any concerns. It might be a good idea.
Okay, thanks. I'll look into it. Thank you.
Susan? Is she there still?
Yes, that was her.
That
Yes.
was her.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. And you know, you might want to talk to David and go over the all the regulations and zoning that would be applicable to the cidery.
Okay, thanks very much.
Not to mention the conservation easement that governs the property.
Oh,
Okay. So we're now, I've lost where we are on this. We're now,
Well,
we've closed,
Jody,
closing the public hearing.
I don't believe that we've actually opened the public hearing.
Can I add-
We
Okay.
have heard from the public.
Can I add one more thing? In regards to her first question, if I do get the preliminary approval, it'd be nice to know what the, what sort of footprint limit you're proposing before I can be assured that I'm happy with going through with this land deal.
Sure. Hunter, do you have something that is within your comfort zone that the board could consider? We're talking about footprint on the ground, so if it's a 2,000 square foot house, 2 stories, 1,000 square feet on the ground, is that within the range that you're thinking
Oh,
of?
are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it would probably be in the low 2000s. We're trying to upgrade from the small house I'm in. We're kind of family planning, so, and to how it's more conducive to having children.
Are you saying 1 story or 2 story?
2 story.
So if the planning
So like a
board,
1,500 square foot
yeah,
floor
and the only,
would be like a 40 by 40 house, basically.
Mhm.
So if that seems like it's within your range, we could say
sure.
plus or minus 1,500 square foot. I'm just throwing a number out there.
Okay,
when we're talking about footprint, so you have 2 floors, the top floor might be smaller than the bottom floor.
yeah. I mean, I don't want to just throw out a random number now without planning it properly, and being restricted to that. But it's going to be a smaller house. I just don't have an exact number yet.
I think you could come back with a change, but we could give a preliminary approval now.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Right, if we do a preliminary, then you have some time to further look at what it is in terms of square footage and stuff.
Yes, yeah. I'm working with an architect and I'm a builder myself, so we'll figure that out.
Okay,
And Jody, this is Alyssa. I just don't want us to forget about the public hearing
right,
getting in there.
right. So are we done with the discussion part? Or the questions we have for them about the site? Okay, so then let's open the public hearing. And see if there's anyone who wants to comment for the public hearing.
See Joel Sand.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joel.
What zone is this in?
Low density residential.
Okay. What are the pink zones? So this is adding a second dwelling on a lot and with site plan approval.
That's correct.
Okay, got it.
Any other questions for the public hearing?
See, Ted has his hand up.
Oh, yeah, and I can't. Ted?
Thank you. Let me start off by saying that Hunter, Nadia, Susan, my comment is not specific to what you are proposing to do. In my humble opinion, if the neighbors are okay with what you're doing, then I have no comment on that. My comment is more about what Joel, yes, two comments. The first one is about what Joel just questioned. This is a low density residential zone, which in the past was limited to one dwelling on 2 acres without special permission for a second dwelling on a lot. And I used to live down that way. In my humble opinion, that particular region of West King Road is the most gerrymandered section of Danby that exists. It's been subject to so many lot line changes in recent years that the houses are sort of getting packed in there. And now we have an example which shows that we no longer have one dwelling per 2 acres in the low density residential zone, but we now have 2 dwellings per 2 acres in the low density residential zone. And I'm not sure that this is an example. I can come up with an argument why this is good, but my overall feeling is that this is not a good example of preserving rural character. In this case, it's probably not going to be visible from the road. It may not make much of a difference. This may be the exception, but two dwellings per lot per 2 acres is going to be tight. I was thinking about what Susan Perry was asking, and it's really a question of what is permitted in our zones, just as I was talking about 2 dwellings on 2 acres. If what Steve is doing out there is within our what is permitted for his zone and his particular conservation easement, I'm sure that if it isn't, I'm sure that the town will look after it. And I guess the reason I mentioned this in response to Susan is looking at what is permitted in a zone by the rules is what the town, David, does. And I'm sure that he would speak up if he found something that he thought was not in keeping with the rules. So it's not really a question of giving different weight to different landowners. Everybody gets the same, but they're either in the rules or out of it. So my point is just that I think that there's an unnecessary permission for increased density in what is nominally a low density zone. And in fact, if you look at the map, is pretty much in a rural area. This may be the case, which the exception that proves the rule, but I'm concerned about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Anybody else for the public hearing?
Toby had his hand up.
Who did?
Toby did.
Oh, okay. Toby?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Oh.
I have nothing to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. So if there's nothing else, we'll close the public hearing. And so we're considering preliminary approval, it sounds like, right? Because we want to wait and see what the house is scheduled to be.
Jody, my point about having us just have a look at doing a site review was not to send a message to Hunter and Nadia that we're going to be picky or anything, but we've had situations where, you know, if we didn't, we've had situations or situations can arise, you know, we give you full approval, you inherit $10 million. And the next thing we know, that's the only concern there. Now, if it would work out better for us to put to have an approval with parameters, so you don't have to come back. I don't know how the board feels about that. You know, then I would be in favor of that as well. If it's not going to be possible to execute the sale otherwise.
That's my biggest concern. Yes, having it hold up this land transaction. I will say I'm working with a frequent collaborator and very talented architect. He's very thoughtful in his designs and about site planning, and he knows this isn't some over the top house. That's all I can really say at this point regarding its scale and size.
And I think we'd want it really nestled behind the barn, right? So if you're driving by, it's not like it's going to be that much wider than the barn. We're really using the barn as kind of a
and you
inspiration.
What if the planning board just had a square footage not to exceed? And that's liberal.
Sure.
That would be helpful.
I mean, for me, I wouldn't care if it was 3,000.
Yeah, we're looking to do a thoughtful design to maximize square feet, but keep it as small as we can.
So would that be a better way to go then for the planning board to
I think so.
tonight, just have a not to exceed square footage?
I think so. And if it sounds like a good number for us, I'll say yes, and we can move forward with the land sale.
So I feel like I've heard two different numbers. So what number are you saying you're okay with?
What are the two numbers? You said 2,000?
1,500.
That would be too tight, I'm sure.
Yeah, and you're talking about a 2,000 square foot footprint. So if you were to, a 2-story would be like a 4,000 square foot house.
Do we know how big the existing house is?
Yeah.
Or the barn?
The barn is, let's see, 50 by 30. My house is 1,300 square feet.
Is there any chance you might, with the architect, you might change to just 1 story?
Probably not.
Well, we could say a 2-story footprint X number or a 1-story X number.
I think so. That's, yeah, that
Okay,
sounds good.
I'll just give a number, just to have a number.
Okay.
2-story footprint, not to exceed 1,500 square feet, and a 1-story footprint not to exceed 2,800 square feet.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'm certain it'd come in well under that. So
I mean, maybe other board members aren't comfortable with that, but that's just, you know.
I'm not even sure that I would get the setbacks with a house that big. So
Right, you have the setback.
yeah.
So are there comments from other people on the board about that proposal?
I have a question. Other than Perry and that house, are there other neighbors that will be affected?
No.
It looks like it's just vacant or rural backing up to your property.
It is. It's
That's what it looks like. It just.
yeah, it's Steve Sellen's yard, his field. And I'm also doing a little triangle land swap with him. He has an easement through my existing property. I'm going to give him the land that goes with that. and take a little bit of his field to grow this half acre I'll be acquiring from Juge or Nathaniel and Susan next door.
Okay.
It's very rural back there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just, one concern is if a house goes up, will people be upset they weren't at the public hearing? Because we're initially proving that land annex, and now we're proving the dwelling size too. I just wanted to check that.
It's a very rural setting back there.
Something you just said made me wonder. Are you talking about you said Steve's field, you're talking about his original property, or are you talking about the easement property? Because easement property cannot be subdivided.
Oh, no, he acquired it from a guy on Yapel about 8 years ago. It's a 3-acre parcel.
Okay.
Hi, guys. Hi, this is Nathaniel. May I chime in for a minute?
This is Susan's husband. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hi, everyone. I guess to answer a couple of concerns or questions, will other neighbors be affected? So we're obviously the closest in proximity. What hasn't been noted yet is that there's a very large pine, a beautiful pine tree hedgerow that sort of separates our property from Hunter's and Nadia's place. That would be directly north of the new dwelling. So if you're approaching both properties from Ithaca or the town, all you see is our house and then a beautiful pine hedgerow that will block line of sight to the new dwelling all year round. Then directly to the east is the big barn that's been there for a very long time, blocking line of sight. And then directly south is a lot of woods, thick woods, Hunter's house and then Steve's house. So really, I guess unless you are out in Steve's orchard, you're not really going to see this new dwelling, especially in all its little modesty and glory.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
All right.
Jamie has a hand up.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jamie.
I just wanted to clarify a couple things because Hunter, before you said that the footprint would be 2,000 square feet. So I want to make sure that the 1,500 that Scott just mentioned is okay. That's one thing. Second thing, please someone help me understand. When I read the zoning for low density residential zone, I read 1 dwelling unit or 1 building with up to 2 dwelling units. So I'm confused. Where does 2 buildings, 2 dwellings as separate buildings okay within a low density residential zone? And then the third thing is I would really like to see a site plan. I think that these kinds of developments, because they're a little bit atypical, not to nitpick, but I just think things like the driveway, is the driveway going to be shared? Are there going to be 2 different entries to the road? These things like the hedgerow, all these things are, in my mind, important aspects of this project. And I would prefer to see a site plan. We could get preliminary approval tonight, but I think it would be great to come back with a plan.
Jamie, I can answer the first part of that, which is you're looking under number 1 of principal uses permitted by right. If you scroll down to number 3, uses permitted by site plan review only, letter M is installation of a second dwelling unit on a lot in a separate building for temporary or permanent occupancy. So that's only allowed with site plan review, which is why they're here, and it's not by right.
So to me, that makes, that's an argument for seeing a site plan, like an actual site plan, not just a sketch, preliminary sketch, which I think is what we've been provided.
Thank you, Jamie. So are there other questions, concerns?
I'm inclined to agree with Jamie with what she said. All the other projects we've looked at, we go down to things as like, are your dark sky compliant, details like that, just to make sure we're conforming with our comprehensive plan. But I think a preliminary approval, and we could mention the square footage if that provides some comfort to get the transaction completed. But I think an architect, to see the architect's renderings and come back for another visit would be good.
Yeah, I'm actually inclined to agree with Jamie. I wanted to think of a way we could help them, but yeah, your point's really well taken, and I guess that's what I was saying originally, so I'm gonna go back to that.
Is there more discussion? Or can someone make a proposal?
I think we need to close the public hearing if
Close.
nobody. Unless
Nobody
anybody
has-
else has another.
Does anybody else have any comments? I'm not seeing any, so we'll close the public hearing. And then we need a motion for what we're going to do.
So I've been listening. Oh, sorry, Google's talking to me. I've been listening to what you all have been saying and trying to keep up with some kind of wording here. So conditions, it sounds like we're looking at, and this is just my preliminary draft based on what you've said, so feel free to jump in and correct or change anything. But that you could consider preliminary site plan approval where the proposed home footprint will not exceed 1,500 square feet for a 2-story building or 2,800 for a 1-story home. The proposed home location will be substantially similar to that on the site plan application. Final site plan will include driveways, landscaping to be maintained or added, final elevations, and footprint. Anything else you would like to require in those conditions? I'm not sure the first one is necessary.
I don't think it is.
At this
They're gonna
point,
come back anyway.
is everyone okay with removing that?
I'm good with removing it.
Move this up. Anything else you will want to see in a final site plan?
So I think since we took that out, we should just put square footage of the house in that one. Oh, you have footprint, never mind.
David, this is Alyssa. Oh, maintainer, right, never mind. I tend to put a comma after landscaping to be maintained or added, comma.
Yep. Okay. Everyone comfortable? Anything else you want to add?
I think just for their peace of mind, procedure, when they come back, would we have to do another public hearing? Or we wouldn't have to do a public hearing because we've already done preliminary.
As long as the final site plan is substantially similar to the preliminary, like they didn't put this house in a totally different location or something like that, you can waive a second public hearing.
Okay, so we could get their approval in one meeting and they could proceed.
Yep.
Okay. I just wouldn't want to have to draw it out any more than we need to.
Yep.
Okay,
So does someone want to make this motion?
I can. I'll motion for this preliminary approval.
I'll second Colleen.
Alyssa?
Cowan,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
Benucci,
Yes.
Scriber.
Yes.
That passes resolution 13.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. This is the final one, which is German Crossroad. The applicant is Charles Muirhead. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. Is
right.
somebody here? Yes.
Yes, Charles is here.
Okay. So this is an application review and schedule a public hearing and declare lead agency. And we did get some stuff about what you're proposing to do, right?
That's right.
So I can provide a little background as well. This proposal went through the BZA and was granted a area variance for frontage. So this is also in the low density residential zone where we still have a frontage requirement. Obviously, the proposed lot is much larger than required, but it is deficient in frontage.